Let's begin by imagining a system built from three components: information, investors, and asset price. Information includes everything we can categorize as an input, the data we and other investors collect. This includes political decisions, financial data, technological advancement, social behaviors, and even pop culture. To be precise, every piece of information can be correlated with markets to some degree. Next, we have investors. Me, you, and everyone participating in the exchange of given asset. Different people, different mindset, different backgrounds, different brains. Everyone evaluates information differently because whether we want or not, we are all biased. Finally, as we evaluate information, we collectively set the asset price, a temporary consensus on what we believe is a fair price, which is in truth a fictional and constantly shifting concept. To create a bubble, we need a catalyst, a piece of information that drastically boosts investor sentiment and expectation for a specific asset. Take the most recent example from the AI sector, the introduction of ChatGPT. When a catalyst like this appears, investors react to it, buy in, and push the price higher. Once the price rises, the rise itself becomes new information that gets evaluated again. This creates a feedback loop where the output becomes the input again and again. Prices rise, enthusiasm grows, and that enthusiasm pushes prices even higher, until investors run out of money or another strong piece of information disrupts the loop. This is how a market bubble forms. It's a self-reinforcing cycle, essentially a self-fulfilling prophecy driven by optimism, greed, and FOMO. Bubbles similar to this one have existed for as long as markets themselves, and they're not limited to stocks. For example, Tulip Mania, when a single tulip bulb could be worth as much as a villa. Or the real estate bubble, where Michael Burry made his fortune betting against the housing market. But today, we'll focus on bubbles connected to emerging technologies, because these bubbles are often the easiest to anticipate, the easiest to monetize, and the ones that occur most frequently. For a bubble like this to form, the underlying technology needs to have huge potential that will cause an intensive period of breakthroughs reported through media and the internet. And when we connect this media narrative with high anticipation, it will trigger a self-reinforcing loop leading to a bubble. To predict it and make the most of it, we need to answer three questions. Which technology will trigger the bubble? When will it happen? And what will make the bubble pop? To answer the first question, we need to identify which technologies make people feel like they can meaningfully change the world. These technologies usually share two core traits. They have real fundamental long-term potential and they capture the mass imagination. And if we look back, it's easy to see that every technology that caused bubble in the past, let's take quantum computing, internet, or electric vehicles, shares these particular traits. In other words, bubbles often form when smart people get too excited about a transformative technology. If we want to find reliable predictors of what captures people's attention, we have to look beyond finance. We don't have to guess or make random predictions based on intuition because we can already observe which technologies will spark the strongest emotional responses in the future. And the evidence comes from pop culture. Think about it. There are dozens of movies about AI, robots, or space travel. And they're very successful. And it's not just movies. Books, TV shows, and video games have been shaping our imagination for decades. building expectations around certain technologies. In practice, they act as a kind of social laboratory, testing whether society is emotionally ready to embrace a particular vision. Simply put, if we are excited by technology that shows up in sci-fi, we will be excited when it appears in reality. It all boils down to knowing that we are not so excited about technological breakthroughs or financial statements. We are getting emotional about stories. A viral robot demo, an AI video hitting 50 million views, a meme that spreads across Twitter in a day. Each of these becomes a narrative event. People share it, react to it, argue about it, and suddenly investor excitement increases. This creates a new kind of feedback loop. Viral moment, emotional reaction, investor behavior, market movement, more viral moments. People see other people getting excited, so their excitement grows too. Investors respond to public enthusiasm, and public enthusiasm responds to investors. The internet accelerates this cycle at the speed that would have been impossible 20 years ago. It turns out that this battle-tested thesis of mine is also heavily supported by research. Everett Rogers' diffusion of innovations shows that adoption is driven by perception and narrative. And Robert Shiller's narrative economics demonstrates that stories, not spreadsheets, fuel market cycles. Now that we understand why narratives matter and how to spot right technology, the next question is, when do bubbles appear most often? And this chart is key. It shows what we call the technological cycle. It consists of research phase, commercialization phase, and maturity phase. We are interested in the late research phase and early commercialization phase. Let's walk through this using AI as an example. In the research phase, AI was locked inside research labs or had niche use cases. It existed, but it was invisible to people that were not directly interested. Pioneers already understood its potential, but the general public had no idea. Until the first big-scale commercial product. November 30, 2022, OpenAI launches ChatGPT, which reaches 1 million users in just 5 days. 70 times faster than Facebook and 200 times faster than Netflix. Then everything explodes. AI startup funding skyrockets. Government funding for AI increases drastically. Nvidia stock surges over 1000% in just 18 months. Many crypto projects and stocks rise by hundreds or thousands of percent even if they have nothing to offer besides a name somehow associated with AI. Hundreds of LLMs and AI tools flood the market. What happened was one massive shift of perception. Society moved from thinking AI is sci-fi to AI is here and is changing the world. Politicians realized they should fund AI to avoid falling behind. Entrepreneurs realized AI was where the real money is. Users realized AI could make their lives easier. And investors realized AI could multiply their portfolios. A similar pattern repeats over and over across our history. Dot-com bubble, the internet existed for years, but Netscape in 1994 made it mainstream and made Nasdaq grow 400% in just 5 years. EV bubble, electric cars, existed for decades, but Elon Musk entered with mass market EVs and the sector exploded. The scenario that plays out is always similar. In the beginning of the commercialization phase, we encounter a massive number of catalysts building the media narrative and causing the bubble. Sometimes one massive catalyst like ChatGPT is enough. Sometimes it's thousands of smaller ones. Viral demos, news articles, influencer videos, research breakthroughs or memes. Each of them acts like a lottery ticket for virality, increasing the odds that the narrative will take over society's imagination. And this is where picking the right companies becomes crucial. Within a hot sector, some companies are clear beneficiaries, the ones actually producing products, owning key technology, or strategically positioned. But there are also the crowd pleasers, companies that capture attention because they're flashy or can ride the narrative wave even if their fundamentals are weak. It's best to find companies that are fundamentally strong and also capture attention, but if that's impossible, it's worth diversifying between two options. Savvy investors often pick fundamentally strong stocks as an anchor for their portfolio and then bet a small amount on high potential, high risk crowd pleasers that might offer explosive growth and fortune if they blow up. Once we've explained all that, we still have one more thing to discuss: the exit. Every bubble eventually bursts, and the person who exits or shorts at the top not only preserves capital but also has plenty of money to buy the dip afterwards. Believe me, you want to exit before the bubble bursts, and it all boils down to one single thing. Bubble bursts when the self-reinforcing feedback loop gets disrupted. The catch is that there's an infinite amount of information that can disrupt it. So we need deep knowledge to identify triggers before the collapse starts. To make it easier, it's useful to categorize them as information contradictory to the belief that bubble is based on and distracting information. A great example of a contradictory trigger comes from the recent AI bubble. For months, investors believed AI companies were on an unstoppable trajectory. Every headline, every demo, every announcement reinforced the idea that AI will reshape everything and valuation can only go up. But then the narrative started spreading online. Reports that major AI companies were publicly collaborating, cross-investing and funding each other not for real technological progress, but to boost investor sentiment and keep the hype alive. Whether the claims were fully true or not didn't matter. What mattered was that they directly challenged the core belief driving the bubble. Suddenly people began asking, are these valuations real or are they manufactured? That moment of doubt was enough to break the feedback loop for many investors. And once belief weakens, enthusiasm fades and liquidity drains. A perfect example of a distracting triggers was the crypto crash in 2022. The market didn't collapse because people stopped believing in blockchain. It collapsed because a massive wave of macro events, interest rate hikes, inflation fears, and a shift towards safer assets redirected attention and capital away from speculative technology. The bubble didn't pop from the inside, but was disrupted from the outside by something stronger competing for investor attention. I like to use the analogy of the spotlight effect. We tend to amplify the narrative that is strongest at the moment and pay less attention to other things happening elsewhere in the stock market. Let me know in the comments what technology will cause the next bubble. For me, it's humanoid robots for sure. Thank you for watching and see you next time.